Mark is super connected. When I was in Toronto recently, he invited me to join his BNI chapter's meeting, and it was virtual, which was good because I didn't have to be up at 5:30 to get to Summerhill Station, pretty much, so that I
Yeah.
could attend in person. And it was a really good meeting. They're very, very high-end professionals in his BNI, so that was awesome. And he also sponsored two of our events while we were there, because again, everybody that's moving between countries needs currency exchange. They need to convert their money. You can't buy in most places from Canada directly. You have to convert to USD first.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can convert directly to whatever the currency is there, but in most places it's through USD, right? So it's the most common
Correct.
when you're dealing with is Canadian to US dollars, right?
Yeah, I would say about 80% of our business is between Canadian dollar and US dollar.
Kind of like me, 80% of my business is between Canada and the US. So that's what another place of synergy. But
Mhm.
what I really like about Mark is that he's very client centric and very focused on attending to the needs of clients and really finding them ways to strategically save money. So the title of this was How to Save Thousands, if not Millions, when you're moving cross border. So can you give us a few examples that you've helped people save money and what that looks like in terms of numbers?
Yeah, for sure. So the interesting thing about banks is if you're an individual, and this also honestly applies to businesses, especially if you're investing through like a holding company, for example, you know, individuals are considered a higher risk with the bank. Same with holding companies, considered higher risk. So
Mhm.
generally that means banks will charge a lot more for their services, whether it's, foreign exchange, a line of credit, mortgage, you name it. If you have very little history with the bank, or if you're an individual in general, just being higher risk, they typically charge an exorbitant amount. Anyone knows this when you go to the bank to exchange cash, like you're going on vacation, for example. You go in, you need a couple $1,000s, and you look at the rate and kind of scratching your head. More often than not, it's 3 to 4% above what you think the market would be. On the foreign exchange side of things, definitely a huge opportunity for individuals to look into savings, I would say. Whether like I'll give you a few examples based off my experience. So whether you're an individual or business, both kind of apply. I had a client, for example, who lived in Nova Scotia and wanted to. He sold his business. I think he was around 67. Sold his business to TELUS, a huge telecommunications company, for a good chunk of change, let's just say. And he wanted to, like anyone living in Canada for a prolonged period of time, move to Miami for nicer weather and the beach, for example. And he found a nice place. It was about I think 2.5 million. It's a nice house, kind of in I can't remember the region of Miami now, but anyways, nice region of
Glad
Miami.
I didn't help him find that house. That's a shame.
Fair point. Fair
Next
point.
time, next time.
Next time, next time, I can reconnect with him and see if he's still looking for an
There you
upgrade.
go. Yeah.
But yeah, so he sold his business and he went to go make a payment, and he was going to actually buy it outright. Just speaking once more, he sold his business for an exorbitant sum. It wasn't really a huge ordeal for him. So he went to the bank to get a rate of exchange, and they were going to charge him roughly 3% on his currency exchange. So if you do the math on that, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. So for every million, essentially, the bank was going to charge him roughly $30,000. So multiply that once more by 2.5. We're talking some incredible amount of money here that he was going to get charged, and not to mention he had to. It's not like he could call someone up to do this transfer. He had to get in his car, drive to the bank, wait in line for 20, 30 minutes, and eventually get up to the teller and
Yeah.
say, hey, I check my account. I need to send a wire, at which case, there's a lot of back and forth. Is this wire information correct? And then when it goes to get the rate, he's like, wait a sec, what?
Hmm.
Like, you're almost charging me 100 grand for me to drive into the bank to initiate this transfer just to buy a home so I can retire. So that
Yeah.
is probably one of the more glaring examples. I'm not going to say it's like that across the board, and obviously, the that's a larger purchase in the scheme of things. But I've seen this exact scenario play out many times. People investing in property with like via syndication, for example, or through direct investment. I've seen people doing 50K at a time perhaps, and they're still
Mhm.
getting charged. I would say 2 to 3% from the bank, which is
Yep.
still like a crazy sum of money. I mean, we're talking about upwards of, let's just say, $1,500 just for you to click book at a bank on a sum of that amount. I mean, that's money that can easily be better spent in a million different
And then they
places.
also still even charge you wire transfer fees on top of that.
Correct.
Wiring
And
money. So that's a
yeah,
whole other story. Yes.
exactly. And that's also a major, I would say, scam in a sort. Like it's either for like $50, sometimes it's $90, sometimes it's a percentage of the overall transaction.
Mhm.
So it's you can't even really tell at the end of the day until you're literally standing in the bank and they put the fee in front of you and they say, "Do you accept this?" And yeah,
What choice do you have at that point other than that, or you're losing your property opportunity?
exactly right. So that's the banks for you in general. So definitely, we've seen this play out time and time again, whether you're an individual investor or whether you're investing through, like I said, a company or a holding company. Generally, we're able to show, I would say, around 2 to 3% savings versus what an average bank would provide to an individual or to once more a holding company.
Um, Mark, what's your background before this, before you founded this?
Yeah, so I mean, I've honestly been in this industry 14, going on 15 years. Before that, I
You
actually
were like
worked.
10?
Yeah, let's go with that. I thank you. But before that, actually, I spent a little bit of time working internationally. So I worked a little bit in Mexico and I worked in China, actually, helping Canadian businesses expand and create connections in new markets. So
Mm.
that's why I've always been big on partnerships and getting a sense of good connections in various regions around the world, because that's really where my career began. So anyways, I started in Mexico and China, had a lot of these connections, understood a lot of the landscape in terms of the macroeconomics, the what to look out for in terms of market movers between different currencies, understanding how politics plays in, for example, to
Oh
currency
my,
exchange.
does it ever?
Yeah, I mean, case in point, this year alone, the amount of volatility between the Canadian and U.S. dollars.
Unbelievable, right? I think it has
Staggering.
but there was a time during COVID that it was a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
honestly,
when the
yeah.
mask mandate was causing a lot of pressure on the Canadian economy and stuff. I
Mhm.
think but this with the tariffs, it's like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this year alone, we've seen close to 10%
crazy,
volatility in the
crazy
movement,
amount. Yeah, for sure.
which is, it's big whether you're a business or an investor, right? I mean, if you're looking at a project and by the time you go, you sign off on it, and by the time you go to make a transaction, right? I mean, you have to think about, how the currency might move, what the volatility is, the time frame there. There's just
And well,
so,
let me interrupt you for a moment. You're talking
yeah.
about the time frame and how the currency might move, right? And I think
Mhm.
people are very unaware, myself included. Like when you quote a rate, right, at let's say 10 a.m.,
Mhm.
how quickly can that rate change? Like obviously not like 0.0000, but how quickly can that rate change that would actually have an impact on whatever amount you're converting, even if it's $1,000?
Yeah, so I mean, firms like ours will typically go off the live market. So I mean, really, that on our end, if we're quoting a client, we actually see the rate consistently move during that quote. Now, if a client agrees to a rate on our end, we can lock that in
Mhm.
for what we call T+2, so today plus 2 days. So the client has a bit of time to actually settle the transaction. But at that point in time, we do buy it from one of our banking suppliers. So that's why it is
So if
secure.
it drops after that, within those 2 days, they're stuck with that rate because they locked in.
Correct. Yeah. And the reverse as well, right? I
Right,
mean,
of
if the
course,
rate
of
then
course.
goes against them, we're not going to come back and ask for more money
Got it.
necessarily. So yeah, they can lock it in. But yeah, really, the market, it's a live market, right? So I mean, I've seen times where, you know, the case in point this week alone with the two interest rate announcements out of Canada and the U.S., where going
Right.
into each announcement, you see a great deal of speculation and volatility in the market, where you can see anywhere between half a cent to a cent movement alone. So, depending on what's coming out in the market, that also should be factored into your decision on when to move funds over. Because yeah, if you look at what the forecasts are predicting as well in terms of movement, in terms, let's just say interest rates, inflation figures, a lot of that can cause a great deal of volatility on the day those figures are released. And especially if you're trying to book a transaction, literally the minute those figures are released, it's usually not conducive to getting a great rate, because sometimes, this is a little insider detail and tip here, the banks will actually set buffer rates in and around
Oh,
big
yes.
decisions so they can cover their own positions, so to speak.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Interesting. So, Mark, let's say somebody like wants to buy a $2 million property, let's say, and they want to kind of play the currency rates. Is there any guidance for them? I guess it's really a crapshoot because you don't know any better than most other people. You're watching it live, just like the stock market, the ticker is changing. And it's the same kind of thing. When you make the purchase, that minute is that rate, and that's what you're locking it in. Is there anything based on the past 6 months of volatility that you would recommend? Is it better to wait? Is it better to act quickly? Is there any logic to it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no one size fits all approach. It really depends on the time frame, the risk tolerance of a client. If, for instance, you're out in the market and you're looking for a property, you don't know how much it's going to be. I wouldn't necessarily say, commit to converting everything right away. Maybe convert at least enough to cover a deposit or show you have funds in account, and maybe take a bit of a dollar cost averaging approach. So breaking it down maybe on a weekly basis. If for instance, you're looking to buy something, let's just say within the next couple months, and it's going to be, I don't know, $1 million, for example, maybe moving funds over in chunks of, a couple 100,000 at a time.
To play it a
Um,
bit, leverage your economy of scale, leverage your options a little, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially these days, there was a period of time where it was a little bit easier
Yeah,
to know what was coming out in the market and where it was going to move just based off, established indicators. But I'll be honest, I mean, the last year has been largely, political discourse that's caused the vast majority of market movement. Like, not just necessarily, between Canada and the US, but looking into the Middle East, looking at, Russia, Ukraine, all
right.
these factor into market volatility. So there's a lot happening over the last year. I mean, truth be told, I suppose there always is, but now more than ever, political commentary is causing a tremendous amount of shift in the currency markets.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been a crazy time for anybody in the international space, as we discussed when we met in Toronto. It's just
Yeah.
been crazy. And also it's even true like in the real estate world. Like we actually have a listing right now. It's on auction. And it's a very unusual way to sell a listing, but it's an older home, very large home, needs to be completely renovated, probably gutted quite a bit. And we put it on auction for, I'm not even going to tell you the numbers, but I will, but it's crazy. Okay, so it's 5,400 square feet. Excuse me. And the appraisal was just under 700,000. Okay. Can
Wow.
you imagine that in Toronto?
Yeah.
That's like anyway, we put it on the auction at 490. We have 7 offers. The highest one so far is 680. So the auction creates a bidding war. And
Mhm.
everybody's like, well, what can I get it at? And what's the sure price? And but we don't know. There's a reserve, and it all depends on what happens. And it's the same in the real estate market. Well, when's the best time to buy? Well, we don't know. The best time to buy is when you want to buy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And if it's all about how much money am I going to save, you're never going to be successful in whatever business you're doing. So at the end of the day, we have trusted partners like Mark that can help to guide you through the process and help you make sure that your money is secure and safe. Because at the end of the day, that is what matters the most. Not to save a 0.05% maybe, but to make sure that your money is safe and secure. So
Mhm.
to that end, Mark, how do people reach you? And by the way, I'm not no sure if I'm supposed to say that, but Mark, Florida appeals to Mark too. I'll just say.
This is true.
The
Yes.
cold in Toronto is not for him. I have learned that recently.
Yeah.
So,
Every
um,
year that goes by, I
yeah,
wonder why I have not made the leap, but
and you need to do it before the kids come along,
this is true.
because
Yes.
then they'll be born here, and then everything is different.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. So, how do people reach you?
Yeah, so they can reach me via my email, which is Marc dot Racette Racette at pulsefx.com. My number is 416-848-1028 as well. And my website, if they want to learn more, is www.pulsefx.com.
Thank you so much for your time, Mark. I look forward to a long and fruitful relationship on both sides of the border.
Likewise.
And if anybody wants a direct introduction, just reach out and I'm happy to make it. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you,
Take
Mark.
care.